Elemental Shamans, Enhancement Shamans, Arcane Mages, Fire Mages, all of you get new talents, reworks, and changes as Blizz is implementing a lot of the feedback coming in. Not only that, but the PvP vendor will grant you legendary recipes and conduits. And have you experienced the Shadowlands pre-patch event yet? All this plus more in On Cooldown, the weekly WoW news show that always changes your class the way you want to. Man, I'm done with these intros.
Hello and welcome to Marcelian Online. We do class guides and a WoW news show on a weekly basis. And if you're into that, hit that subscribe button and maybe throw a comment.
Because that will help us massively. And you know, it will keep you updated and we can engage in some conversation. And now, on with the show!
Hold on to your horses, everyone, because Shaman is going to rock the house again. In the last couple of days, both Elemental and Enhancement have received a bunch of changes, mini reworks, and new talents. The main issue was with the new reworks and how they functioned. On paper, everything seemed good, but there were a few underlying issues, and if I'm not mistaken, this is the third tuning they do after the rework. For Elemental, Chain Lightning will not generate Seismic Thunder again, but Fulmination stacks. Lava Burst will also generate Fulmination stacks. The issue was that you would cast Lava Burst, sometimes Lightning Bolt, in scenarios that turned into AoE, and then swap to Chain Lightning, and you would have two different buffs that you needed to consume, and it felt like losing damage if you decided to only consume Seismic Thunder, for instance. Well, that's gone now, and Earthquake will eat up Fulmination. Each Fulmination stack reduces the cast time of your next Earthquake by 20% and increases its damage by 20% as well. What this means is you can cast Earthquakes at 5 stacks to benefit the most from it being instant, or gather more stacks for a bigger hit since Earthquake eats all up to 8 stacks of the Fulmination buff. There's a bit of decision making here on top of the rotation being a lot more straightforward and, to use Blizzard's wording, not disjointed. Totem Mastery was also weird now that you don't have Maelstrom anymore, so they scrapped it for both Elemental and Enhancement, and it got replaced with Static Discharge for Elemental. This is a 30-second cooldown instant cast spell that zaps a target 6 times in 3 seconds for a very small amount of damage, prioritizing targets with Flame Shock on. The damage is super small, like goddamn, it looks like they messed up on the scaling of this one because you really do more melee damage as Elemental. But this can be a pretty cool mechanic if it could either be buffed in its damage or have it interact with Overload and Fulmination in some way. Maybe make the crit ticks generate 1 stack of Fulmination? Something like that. Some other talents were moved around, and Aftershock only works with Earth Shock now, since it might be too much with the new Earthquake. But Elemental Blast has been moved to replace the Totem Mastery, and in its place, we have the Static Charge talent. This is super cool, because now we can have Echo of the Elements and Elemental Blast for single target, and so many buttons, man! Whew. Enhancement also got 2 new talents to replace Totem Mastery and Cycle of the Elements. Ice Strike, a 15-second cooldown, hits your target for frost damage and slows for 6 seconds and resets the cooldown of your shocks. Pretty neat to get an extra flame shock out, or if you want to set up for a big Hailstorm play where you have your Hailstorm stacks and Maelstrom stacks, cast a Hailstorm Frost Shock Empowered. Consume Maelstrom stacks, Ice Strike, and Frost Shock again, because, you know, Frost Shock hits like an awesome, drunken, crazy party second day hangover. Elemental Assault is a more delicate option. You get 15% extra Storm Strike damage, and Storm Strike now also generates 1 stack of Maelstrom. This is a more simple playstyle with Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning pumps. Might be good with Forceful Winds and Storm Fury for that 1-button rotation. Just kidding, you have 13.7 buttons in your rotation now. Enjoy Shadowlands.
Shamans aren't the only ones getting some major love from Blizz, as mages... What? Mages? Yeah, mages. Got some pretty exciting updates as well, especially Arcane, but Fire too. Now, you know we will do a full-on test and overview for all these changes, but as a summary for the show, One change that affects all the mage specs is the new Rune of Power. The talent will now work as a passive. Like whenever you pop Combustion, Icy Veins or Arcane Power, Rune of Power will automatically cast underneath you, meaning that you will be saved 1 GCD and help with your setup, especially for Arcane. On the other hand, not having it with 2 charges and usable when you want means that you cannot make use of it anymore during downtimes and AoE, for example. And a lot of mages used it in those scenarios. Mirror Image had its damage nerfed, but it did receive a big defensive component in the form of a 20% damage reduction while the images are active, as Blizz did say that they want Mirror Image to be used more as a defensive cooldown rather than an offensive one. Pretty good overall and potentially very useful in PvP. Now, all you Arcane boys should have enough reasons to rejoice because in terms of more AoE potentials, there are things coming your way. Arcane Power is dropped from 3 minutes to 2 minutes cooldown, and the Touch of the Magi talent will provide you with 4 arcane charges. Also, the Resonant talent has been buffed in the sense that the damage per hit with Arcane Barrage is increased to 15%, up from 10%. The Charged Up talent was removed, but you get a new level 35 talent called Arcane Echo, which will cause an explosion that will deal arcane damage to 8 nearby enemies affected by Touch of the Magi. And this looks like another AoE option, but it did bug out on beta since it procced off of trinkets too, so more testing and tuning and iteration will be done to know for sure how it will perform. On the last bro, Time Anomaly works the same in terms of having a chance to gain Arcane Power for 8 seconds, Evocation for 1 second, but also Time Warp for 6 seconds, and no more 4 Arcane charges. Now, having the Time Warp added to it definitely makes it more competitive against Overpower, although further testing will be needed to know for sure because even with this, Overpower still seems to be the best choice. Oh, and I forgot about Master of Time, another new talent you get on the second row, which reduces your Alter Time cooldown by 30 seconds, and it also resets the cooldown of Blink when you return to your original location. This, paired up with the new Mirror Image changes, will make Arcane super defensive on top of being more able to deal with mechanics that require you to move in and out of raids and make use of different positions and so on. Fire receives the long-awaited new talent called From the Ashes, which will increase your mastery by 2% with each charge of Phoenix Flames off cooldown, and the direct damage crit will reduce its Phoenix Flames cooldown by 1 second. The mastery gain doesn't seem to be too much, and looking at the row with this new talent, Flame On will remain a very strong option, especially with the change to Phoenix Flames not guaranteeing critical hits. Fire Blast will become even more important. Yeah, Phoenix Flames also got some changes as the damage was buffed and the recharge time reduced, but as I said, it will no longer have guaranteed crits. Once again, we will do a full-on testing and overview on the mages and have full-on videos for every spec as more changes and tuning will occur. But for now, this is what you get. Happy with the changes so far?
And today's comment of the day comes from Sassy Saddles, and they said,
Blizz, game is dying. Quick, bring back old nostalgia characters.
Do you think Arthas is enough to save Shadowlands?
Maybe not, but one character can save everyone.
It's him! The one!
We will fight, but we need your help, Great One.
My people are strong. I will lead them to their destiny.
For Azeroth! For female lords!
If you haven't noticed, your launcher has had an update on the PTR client for a 9.0 patch. What? Like that time before your high school party with that girl you liked and hoped to score, you got really excited. Shadowlands releases soon, and just like that time in high school with that party and the girl you wanted to get with, You entered the PTR client and the server came in with a hot convertible and a place on the basketball team. No, PTR events does not work properly, and yeah, Shadowlands has a long way until it's ready. I was able to start the event and run around collecting reports about the Scourge invading like that one time when Sephiroth wanted friends, but we said, nah bruh, you suck. Then he proceeded to kill everybody, as you do. I managed to kill a ghoul and a warlock here and there until the event bugged out my tune and I had to log into another one. No thank you. The speculations ran amok saying that the expansion is close to release now that we have the pre-patch on the PTR, but the last few days stand to show that the purpose of this is and was to test, cause, you know, it's fucking shit, mate! Don't get me wrong, this is normal, it's a big event, even if it happened a few expansions ago already. The world has changed, we have been level squished, a bunch of classes have been reworked, and I am pretty sure this is the actual Shadowlands patch, meaning the entire expansion is on the PTR, just locked. All of these things can cause issues in ways I cannot understand because I never had a womb, I'm not a game designer, and it makes perfect sense that we need to make sure the event is bug-free. On the plus side, people without beta can actually test the class changes, at least the ones in the current build, alongside the level squish. With the state of beta and the obvious shit show that is high school, the pre-patch event, the expansion is at least 2 months away from being ready in my opinion. But it's a sign, a good sign to see things progressing along to the point where we can have Shadowlands content on the PTR. What do you think?
While we're still hoping that the PvP vendor will have gear with all the stat combinations, there are some good additions on the horizon. Specifically, the fact that PvP vendors will sell you legendary recipes and conduits. When looking at the legendary recipes, it's clear to see that the big majority that will be available at the vendor is more utility-based rather than DPS-based, but things like Uther's Guard for Paladins will make an excellent addition for the mobility of Paladins, granting, among others, immunity to movement-impairing effects on your Hand of Freedom. The cost of one recipe will be 1,500 PvP honor, and until we know how much PvP honor we will get from arenas, world PvP or BGs, let's just rejoice that these will be account-wide, but again, they are recipes, so you will need to farm your mats and go to the rune carver to make them. Also, conduits! Yeah, conduits will also be available for purchase at the PvP vendor, although not all the pool, but rather one conduit per spec and one for class. The conduits will only be available to purchase from the rated PvP vendor, meaning that as opposed to the legendary recipes, you will need conquest to purchase them, but we're still not sure on the amount of conquest needed to buy a conduit, because the cost is hidden. Suffice to say, this is looking overall promising, as if you like to play more PvP than PvE, you won't feel as gated as in BFA to do content that really isn't up your alley in order to obtain stuff that improves your character and makes you more competitive. We're still a long way from the final versions of all these vendors and currency requirements, so no need to get overly excited or outraged, but so far so good. Another week, another on cooldown with lots of stuff to get into. Well, we got into it, you know, in the video, but there's still a lot to cover, man. God damn it. And one thing that has sparked enough drama, the Covenant.
Oh,
dungeon, bonuses, bosses, things. Oh, man.
They had to make it even more impactful for you to choose the one Covenant. So right now, every zone has one dungeon specific to their Covenant, most likely tied to the story as well. For instance, Bastion has Necrotic Wake, and if you are a Bastion player, like actually chose the Covenant at 60 at Bastion, everybody in your party will get bonuses, and each dungeon gives you a different bonus, but most importantly, it gives you skips that save time, and you only get those skips if one member of your party is in the Covenant respected to the dungeon.
It's Bastion, right? So that makes you wonder, because this is one example. There's more bonuses to go around. The thing is, a lot of people, especially M+ players, will probably want to get a person from each Covenant.
Yeah, if it was hard to get into groups, now you also have to have the right Covenant so that the dungeon can have skips.
It's a mess, and surely the drama and the outrage is this time well deserved. This cannot go on like this, man. It's a bit much. But speaking of dungeons, we got some new affixes.
Oh yeah, we have some good things as well. We had 3 new data mine affixes. Data mine because they're not yet in the game. Also, we don't really have the vendors to go with Mythic Plus anymore.
Sure.
But there are a couple of pretty cool affixes. There's what was it? Inspiring, spiteful, and storming.
And storming with the whirlwind thing.
Yeah, that's actually the one that actually gets me worried because it sounds like storming is basically enemies spawn whirlwinds randomly.
Yeah.
Whirlwinds kind of like moving explosives that obviously you cannot kill, but it sounds like this will scale with key level, and that will be a bitch for casters.
Because they're moving and you have to like always be constant on the move, and yeah, casters will have a pain when this affix will go live. There's also the inspiring affix, which the non-boss enemies, was it? Have this
aura that empowers everybody.
It buffs
it
the
sounds
buff.
like
It buffs the mobs.
Do you remember the elite on the bridge in Stranded Storm? The big electric elemental thing. That everybody skips that in Hikes. Now that was also in Power of Thing, and that was really weird because people hated that throughout the entire BFA to have to do those guys, and they kept trying to find ways, death skips, shrouds, to get past that. So
there's also the spiteful, which I think we talked a bit in a previous on cooldown.
No, that was prideful. This one is this kind of reminds me of Reaping, where enemies that you kill spawn. I think they just rise from the corpses. I don't know if
like
every
zombies.
corpse, and they chase players. So that adds an interesting dynamic. Again, fuck casters, because why would you play a caster if you have to dodge everything now? But that was always interesting because Reaping was
I like Reaping, but I think the prideful thing will be much better. Like compared to
we don't know exactly
Reaping
which one is the season one. Maybe Prideful is the season one, but
who knows? Who knows?
And these might actually replace stupid shit like Grievous and Bursting. Sanguine.
Sanguine.
Yeah.
Sanguine. It was the small pools of blood, that kept on healing the mobs.
And fucking our keys,
Yeah, and fucking our keys. But you know what else doesn't fuck our keys?
Not the Patreon.
Not the
Patrons are amazing because they're supporting our content. Thank you very much, guys. It has been an amazing 2 to 3 months, last couple of months for us. We initiated a lot of projects, and some of them you may have seen.
Yes.
And we do a lot of other things on our channel.
But the thing is, the most important thing right now is that we are still doing the Shadow Class overviews, videos, as well as the On Cooldown Weekly WoW News show. We have the podcast, and also this brand new thing that will come out next Thursday on the 20th of August, and I'm 100% you will like it. So if you want to support all of this work being done around here, just go into the description, click the Patreon link, see if there's something you like over there, okay? And also, big shout out to our Twitch supporters, our Twitch viewers and subscribers as well. Much love for all y'all.
Catch us there. Maybe we can do a raid with y'all.
Yeah, because tomorrow is the longest stream. On Saturdays, be sure to catch us there. So, twitch.tv/Marcelian Online. And with that, enough plugs, enough whatever.
Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. See you next one.
See you next year.
You are